Good evening. I was on the Facebook today and saw something, and at first I kind of dismissed it, then I thought about it and I got really angry, and then I sat down and thought, okay, practice what you preach, enjoy the decline, and I'm merely going to convey my observations for the sake of posterity. And I think to also alleviate a lot of frustration, libertarians, conservatives, Republicans, people who have their head out of their asses and know some basic things about economics and finance or math. Because I'm a big fan for always stepping back, getting the horse blinders off, looking at things with a brand new set of eyes and saying, oh my gosh, this is what's really going on. So this thing on the Facebook, it was basically comparing the federal deficit and debt and budget to a family to make it more digestible to the human brain. So it was like the federal government is currently like a family that earns $51,000 per year. They spend $60,000 and they have $300,000 in debt. So that's the federal revenue, the federal expenditure, and then the national debt put on a person or a family basis. And the reason they do this is because most Americans are really so stupid they don't know the difference between a billion, a trillion, and a million are. And most of them are ignorant and too lazy to go look up the budget and take a vested interest in public finances because it's boring and why do that and everything. The electricity's still on, so we're America, we'll always be fine. This only happens in third world countries. So that aside, so you've seen these before. I've seen them before. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's about right. That's what I see. Well, my friend who posted it didn't post it just for that, but he also said, my God, I tried to show this to somebody, and she gave me the argument, well, the federal government isn't a family. And I thought that's just, one stupid bint that doesn't know what she's talking about. Then another friend of mine chimes in, yeah, if you go to Huffington Post, all the comments are saying the government isn't a family, or this is not analogous. And it's almost scary how it's almost like there was a talking point that was given before and everyone just circles around it. And the reason I got so angry is because so fucking what? So what does it matter if the federal government is a family or not? You're still running deficits. You're still running a huge unsupportable debt. Then I stepped back. I said, okay, is this any different than any time before where you try to point out blank black and white math to leftists, to liberals, to socialists, say, look, this is not supportable, and then they immediately go scrambling for a non sequitur explanation as to why it's okay, or that they can ignore it, or your standard bait and switch. Well, yeah, at least Ronald Reagan, Obama wasn't raping kittens like Reagan did, or some kind of has nothing to do what you're talking about. So, whereas I initially got furious with the blatant stupidity, the incomprehensible stupidity and ignorance of that statement, well, the federal government isn't a family, I finally realized what was going on. And this is important for everyone else to go on, okay, or to understand. And the reason why is it really gets to the problem, the key problem that those of us I like to title real Americans, conservatives, libertarians, Republicans, people who work for a living, run into non-real Americans, the liberals, socialists, parasites, and ignorant people who aren't even political. They just, I just feel that Obama cares. Be the Democrats like the little people. We like to think logically. We like to think numerically. We like to think in reality. And therefore, when it comes to political and economic debates, you default or get into the belief that you have to argue at this level. While they're educated liberals, they think they're so smart. They have degrees in sociology and women's studies, and they're professors. And look at, what's his name? Paul Krugman, and look at Robert Reich and all these other intelligent economists. That's way up here. But that's not where the fight is. Those are pundits. Those are not the majority of leftists and liberals and people like that. Those are merely people who provide the reason. They're shills. They provide the reason, and they're politicians, reason and rationale to lie to the people to get them convinced that we can run deficits perpetually and nothing bad is going to happen. They get them to believe in lies. The real battle, and this is why I had to step back and realize what was going on, why I recommend you do the same. The real battle is not a high-end economic debate with Paul Krugman or Robert Reich. The debate is so low, so mundane, so stupid. It's the opposite direction. You got to dumb yourself way down. And what I noticed when people said the government is not a family, it made me realize that is not an instance of, well, it is an instance of ignorance and stupidity. But what it really is a mental problem. You have someone who is mentally damaged. Not maybe actual physical brain damage, but they are mentally deficient. They have a real mental problem. And I'm not saying this to besmirch or slander these people. You have to step back and realize that's what you're dealing with. You are dealing with someone who is delusional, right? These people love to make fun of Christians because, they believe in a guy nailed up on a cross and forgiving of the sins and Noah's Ark and all this other stuff. They'll mock and ridicule those people for believing that kind of, fairy tale stuff. But they're so delusional in their own world that if you tell them you can't spend more than you make, and they go, yes, we can. You're not arguing up here with Paul Krugman. You're not arguing with Robert Reich. You're dealing with, you might as well be arguing with a tree. I'm being deadly serious. Because there is no desire, maybe not even capability, on the part of your average, brainwashed, unconscious, leftist, liberal yuts to engage in intellectual honesty, try to find out the truth, think through their actions and reactions. And there's no other way to explain it. How else do you tell a person you can't spend more than you make? This is not political. This is math. It's math. You can't spend more than you make. Well, the government is a family. What does that have to do with it? See, and this is where maybe you get a little bit of solace. Because you give up and you realize, maybe you don't give up, but at least you now know what you're dealing with. And you know that any kind of intelligent argument, reason, logic, empirical data, common sense is going to be mooted on them. It's going to be useless. It's going to be futilely wasted against them because you have to have sanity. You have to have at least honesty to have those things work. But if you're so far gone, you are mentally damaged that you can't, if you don't believe in math, whatever high-level tactics you're going to try to argue and reason with them are going to be ineffective. So how do you get through these liberals? Well, I don't think you can, because I think they're wedded to this until the electricity goes out, and even then, they're very. I'm not saying this to be insulting, but most leftists and liberals really are inferior to most conservatives and libertarians. I know there's some really good liberals and leftists, and I know there's some really bad conservatives and libertarians, but in the grand scheme of things, liberals don't really produce a lot of stuff. That's why your engineers, your doers, your shakers, your creators, your inventors, don't give me Steve Jobs, don't give me anecdotes, don't give me what this one guy, tend to be more of your conservative business, libertarian free market capitalist types. And the very common, unproductive, or nothing special to mention about, just the masses, just these blank faces, tend to be sheeple who just, oh yeah, free government money, and I care, and they cheer on all the right, they say the right things, but they're so common, they're not unique. So what works on them, I found, is shame. You're not going to get them. They have nothing else in their lives to subscribe to. That's where I was going with that point. They have nothing else in their lives. They have nothing like really core to point to, like, I did this, I built this company, I raised this family, or something like that. It's like a born-again Christian. Their lives are so screwed up. They got nothing else to do but point to, Jesus loves me. The Lord has a plan. The Lord has a way. It's not my fault I got pregnant with 16 different guys' children, and now Jesus forgave me. It's kind of the same thing. They got nothing in their lives that they can point to that they personally did, so they go to the state. They go, look how much care. Look at me, I'm a vegan. Look at me, I go green, I'm organic. Ooh, look at me. It's like, yeah, you still haven't done anything. That's just you putting badges on you that didn't require any sweat, toil, or effort. So when you point that out to them, you shame them, you mock them, you ridicule them, you at least get them riled up. I don't know if you're ever going to convince them because they are so wedded to their ideology. They are so scared to look at themselves in the mirror and actually acknowledge, have the intellectual honesty to say, I am a worthless human being who has really done jack with my life. They can't do that. So I don't know how much, if it's even a penetrable mental shield they got up. But I tell you this, trying to reason with them, trying to argue logically with them, giving them data and statistics, right, and doing basic math, it doesn't work. Because you have to engage on a mental level, a mental, psychological problem level. And you know what? I'm not a genius psychologist. And that's why I just go with shame, mockery, and ridicule. And heck, not even shame, mockery, or ridicule, just the truth. A lot of people get all pissed off when I say most liberals, they don't have a core. It's true. They don't. Again, I know some do. Not talking about, your great uncle or your uncle who worked hard in the union shop and he put in his 40 years at GM. I'm not talking that guy. I'm talking most people today. When you say we can't spend more than we make, and they come up with the government is not a family, that's the liberals I'm talking about. Those are the socialists and the leftists I'm talking about. We're not talking 1962 JFK Democrats. So, for the sanity's sake of conservative libertarians and Republicans out there, when you're trying to argue with such idiocy, just don't. Okay, that you're banging your head against the wall. And then for perhaps the only thing you can do is just mock and ridicule them. They've ruined the country. They're going to ruin our lives. They've ruined our futures. They've destroyed our families. They've destroyed America. They've villainized the founding fathers. They've villainized freedom. Good Lord, they're so far gone. They actually think, like, being a single mom in a trailer park or in the ghetto or the barrio is superior than to the nuclear family in 1950. Look at how they villainized the 1950s. But what, today is great? Divorce rates of 50% is awesome? That's how you're not dealing with sane people. So, yeah, mock and ridicule, shame. At least get your pound of flesh for what they've done to you, your country, your children's future. If you have children, I'm terribly sorry, but you brought them in the wrong time in history. So that's all I got. Buy some books. I don't know. Go to assholeconsulting.com. Good. I've been an asshole pretty much this entire time. A lot of people get pissed off. Yeah, check it out. Check out assholeconsulting.com. See how you can support me so I don't have to go work a real job. Not that with videos like these, anyone's ever going to hire me ever again. Toodles.